Hello and welcome to another episode of Flick POV, where we discuss our articles and read them from flickpov.com. Make sure you stay to the end of the episode so you can hear my opinions and a discussion based on this article. House of the Dragon finally gave us dragons in combat. The art of the dance. The last episode of House of the Dragon, The Red Dragon and the Gold, has been the best since Game of Thrones days. In this episode, viewers finally witnessed the epic battle they had been longing for, leaving them on the edge of their seats with racing heartbeats. This episode is different from any other in House of the Dragon for many reasons. The visual effects of the dragons are impressive. They look incredibly realistic, their scales are staggering, and the dragons' movements and attacks look like a perfectly choreographed dance. The dragons show a psychological depth. We can see their personalities and behavior in detail. For example, in Sunfire's scene, where he is cute and goofy with Aegon, almost like a dog. We can also see their emotional and physical pain. For example, when Meleys attacks and claws Sunfire, the golden dragon screams in pain while fighting for his king. Or when Meleys turns to look at Rhaenys after getting bit by Vhagar. The heartbreaking gaze they both have when falling from the skies was filled with love. A way of bidding farewell and saying, "I've given all I can, forgive me." A complicit look with the emotion, similar to when a loved one is on their deathbed. Aemond. This episode is also very different from the rest because Aemond had been presented as a loyal hound. Yet, the help of Sir Criston Cole, he plotted a military strategy to attack the Blacks without Aegon's permission. At first I thought Aemond was strategizing for the good of his entire family, or Tim Green, and because Aegon is clueless and ignorant. His council knows his lack of knowledge as well as his lack of interest. Hence the conversation he has with Alicent after she finds out Viserys' books are missing. Alicent mentions his council earned their seat by studying, growing, and succeeding. She explains he is taking his responsibility for granted, as well as the efforts taken in place by others to put him on the throne. He either needs to contribute with valuable ideas or shut up and let others do the work. He then unexpectedly joined the battle led by Aemond and Sir Criston. Aegon tried to prove himself, yet he ended up proving the others. The surprising element of the Targaryen brothers in this episode was Aemond's loyalty to himself and no one else's. This time we saw even a deeper, darker side of him, one of a traitor and a fratricide. After Rhaenys attacked Aegon with Meleys, the dance between the dragons, biting and clawing one another, seemed like Aegon's end until Aemond appeared. It appeared to be a rescue from his brother, but nothing could have prepared audiences to see Aemond yell Dracarys on Aegon and Sunfire. If that wasn't shameless enough, as soon as Aemond found his brother lying on the ground, he was going to kill him if it hadn't been for Sir Criston Cole asking him to put away his sword. Aemond didn't show any remorse. He looked more regretful of Lucerys' death than his brothers, whom he started fighting for in the first place. Not even Daemon would dare to do that. Why did Aemond do that? He always wanted to be king. Even in Season 1, when everyone was looking for Aegon after Viserys' passing, Aemond said if his brother went missing, he intended to be found. Even Aegon knew that. When Sir Eric and Sir Eric were looking for him and then Aemond found him, he said, quote, "I was hoping you disappeared," end quote. And Aegon answered, quote, "I do not wish to rule, no taste for duty, I am not suited. You let me go. I will find a ship and sail away, never to be found," end quote. Aemond's ambition was always crystal clear, and Aegon should have tread carefully. He should have avoided humiliating him in front of everyone at the brothel, but most importantly, he should have never fully trusted him. Yet another reason why Aegon is a complete idiot. He also should have waited for his return and expelled him from the council, but the Greens have never shown that much insight anyway. What did the council think was going to happen after intervening in a family feud that owns dragons? This is what Sir Criston Cole realized after gaining back his consciousness and looking at his surroundings. When he woke up, all he saw were the ashes and the destruction from the fire. Everyone is burned or severely injured. No mortal without a dragon can stand a chance. Why did the council and Otto Hightower think it would be a great idea to usurp the throne of a dragon rider with a dragon rider? Even though the Targaryens had been fighting since childhood, it was a dragon problem. Now everyone is defenseless and they will burn with everything else. They should have let the Targaryens solve their issues like any other family at a good old Christmas. The worst part for Team Green is they no longer exist. Otto is exiled, Aegon has been brutally assaulted by his brother, Alicent has adopted a nihilistic attitude and she doesn't care anymore. She has accepted everyone is going to die and someone will win, and eventually there will be a new heir. If that's not bad enough, Aegon is still alive, most likely disabled. Here we go again, repeating the family pattern. An ill king who can barely speak for himself, and a council and relatives that rule for him. The usurpers are usurping. Rhaenys. When Rhaenyra is told Sir Criston Cole and Sir Gawain Hightower have raised their banners, she says she should send a dragon. Rhaenys then said she would be going, and as soon as she arrived at battle, she burned most of their soldiers. As mentioned before, Aegon appeared unexpectedly and Meleys attacked him. After Aegon and Sunfire fall into the woods, Rhaenys could have escaped and gone back to Dragonstone, but she turned her dragon back to the battlefield and attacked Vhagar. Meleys and Rhaenys gave everything they had until their last breath, giving audiences the toughest watch so far. Why did she return to attack Aemond if he rides the fiercest dragon? Vhagar is the biggest and oldest dragon. She is around 180 years old, and she was first ridden by Visenya when she arrived along her brother and husband, Aegon the Conqueror. They could be seen as a weapon and not the complete strategy because that risks their life and their riders, especially knowing some dragons are much bigger than others, like Vhagar compared to Arrax or Sunfire. The possibility of Rhaenys and Meleys's death was very high considering they were already hurt and exhausted. Rhaenys attacked with all her strength until her last breath, determined to give everything she had to end a war responsible for the deaths of Lucerys, Laenor, and Laena. Having lost everything and grieved for years, it was her pain that drove her to stop a violent and pointless conflict. She sought to defend herself and put respect for the crown and justice, especially as the queen who never was. Her actions also intended to prevent the same fate for Rhaenyra and ensure the respect for Rhaenyra, Baela, Rhaena, and herself was recognized, despite being women. It was a suicidal mission for the greater good, to weaken Vhagar enough for the upcoming battles. Her deep bond between Meleys has been the best dragon rider dynamic representation on screen in the Game of Thrones universe. We can see how they understand each other. She barely speaks and Meleys follows. They dance with ferocity, love, and understanding. As painful as their death was, it was freeing. As they fell from the skies, they were getting freed from the violence, the struggle, the fury, and the impotence. Almost a Nirvana-like moment, fully present in one another, letting go of all the hurdles and pains. She knew this was her last ride, and this time she went back and burned everything as much as she could because it was her last opportunity to do so. The last time she faced the Greens, rising from the ground, she didn't burn them because she didn't want to start the war. However, at Rook's Rest, she took the matter into her own hands. She is undoubtedly a true queen who gave everything, putting respect to her legacy and her family's, fighting with fire and blood. Now, for this article's discussion, I want to focus on Rhaenys. Regarding Aegon, I think it's very notorious he's very dumb and impulsive. And the fact that Aemon turned his back on him wasn't really surprising because ever since season 1, he was the only one who took his role as any of the royals seriously. So that's something he truly wants. He wants to sit the Iron Throne, and it was very notorious. So it really wasn't that surprising. The only surprising thing was that even after showing a little remorse from Lucerys' death, the fact that he didn't feel anything for Aegon just fully proves his... I mean, I don't want to jump into conclusions, but I dare to say a little bit of a sociopathy there. If not that every character is a bit of a sociopath anyways. But now, going back to Rhaenys. I think this was the best episode of season 2. And it was the best episode because it gave us a plot twist. It gave us something unexpected, which, Game of Thrones has always been good for. And I think the fact that she died was not the unexpected part, but the way she died. The way she cared so little for Rhaenyra, yet she still respected her, and she gave everything she could. She went back, even though she could have left. And I would say that might be a questionable move, because, she was a very good asset on military terms, as well as Meleys. So she risked herself and she risked Meleys's life, and also as part of a good strategy to attack back again and military-wise. But I think the way she died is something more transcendental. And it has to do with the will to live, or not the will to live, but what you find meaningful in life. So I think, if you think about it, she faced one of the hardest, most painful things anyone can face, and that is losing a child. And not just one, but both of your children. Her grandchildren are grown. They are independent. They can care after themselves. They're doing very well, especially Bela. And Corlys Velaryon, she knows he is going to be alright, because she just found out he has sons. So he has someone to inherit Driftmark. So Driftmark is not going to end up lost forever. And there was a time where Corlys was selfish enough to go into battle and not caring about Rhaenys, especially when he was at the Battle of the Triarchy after losing Laenor. So, why would she act differently if her own husband already left her? And of course, I'm not trying to say that he left her for good. He came back, but I do think that back then that was a selfish decision from Corlys. So now she gets to be selfish too. I think it's selfish to go into battle and risk your life, and also the dragon, especially when you're in a war between dragon riders and, this dragon family. But I don't think it's wrong. She is being selfish, but she is entitled to do so. I think she has been very supportive, even though almost no one has been supportive of her. And as I said, she gave everything she had to give, and she didn't have anything that tied her to fighting to be alive. And in a way, she probably thought, I cannot take Vhagar by myself, but I can hurt her enough and injure her enough so that when the other dragons attack her, it's going to be too much and she won't be able to survive. So there you have it. An honorable and reasonable death, or sacrifice if you want to call it, from the queen who never was. Make sure you follow us at FlickPOV website and our social media at X, Instagram, or Pinterest. And you can also read any of our articles at flickpov.com. And make sure you leave us a comment. Tell us if you agree, tell us new insight, or tell us if you disagree. Thank you, and see you next time.